Okay, Macbeth, Act 3, Scenes 5 and 6. That's my focus. I have to find my Spark Notes Macbeth. I forgot to type that up first, but because I'm using it so much, it pops up in my my Google search. So Macbeth, Spark Notes, study guide, no big deal because boom, right here is the no fear translation. Now, before I even get into it, let me show you the value of Spark Notes and why you should utilize this amazing resource. Again, they don't know I'm doing this. They haven't hired me to do this. It's simply a teacher who finds this resource most useful. They provide a plot overview. They offer up a video plot summary. They have key questions and answers. They talk about meaning of the ending. They have summary and analysis for all of the acts and scenes. They give you your character list and character analysis. And they also offer up main ideas, themes, plot analysis, protagonist, antagonist, setting, motifs, and symbols, different allusions, because one of the things with Shakespeare are all of the allusions he makes. Now, an allusion, when a writer uses an allusion, they are going by the assumption that their audience knows who or what this reference is. And so the meaning of that circumstance in the play comes from an understanding of the allusion being made. Like if I were to say he stood like Rambo ready to attack, I'm assuming you all know who Rambo was and what Rambo looked like when he was in, full fighting mode. Okay, so these are all of the wonderful tools that are at your disposal, but they're not here for you to plagiarize. Okay, they're here for you to use to help further your understanding. I have a lot of students who sadly go to Sparks Notes and just copy and paste, and that is unacceptable, which is why in classwork with an assignment, I can actually find an assignment. Here's an assignment. In the assignment, I'm going to edit, there is the originality report. Okay, important. I turned on, oops, I just turned it off. I turned on the originality report for this assignment because it has to be your work, your understanding of the play, not the writers of Sparks Notes. So it will flag any, where's my Sparks Notes Macbeth? It will flag any plagiarizing that you do. Interesting enough, a lot of the plagiarized lines come from Sparks Notes. Now, this is not Sparks Notes' fault. It's the fault of the individuals who copy and paste their work. So we are now going to No Fear translation. And we're moving down to Act 3 again. I just finished all the way to scene 4, and now we've got 5 and 6. So I'm going to do the last two scenes and talk about their significance. Now, we left scene 4. At the end of scene 4, Macbeth told his wife that he was going to find the witches and learn from them the worst. By the worst means the worst. He needs to know more, period, and they are going to tell him. So this is that scene. Thunder. Enter 3 witches meeting Hecate. Thunder, pathos. The nature is in harmony with man's actions. Now, just because it is in harmony with man's actions doesn't mean man's actions are good. In this case, the stormy weather is reflecting the storminess of man's actions. Why, how now, Hecate? You look angrily. Have I not reason, beldams as you are, saucy and overbold? How did you dare to trade and traffic with Macbeth in riddles and affairs of death? And I, the mistress of your charms, the close contriver of all harms, was never called to bear my part or show the glory of our art. She's scolding them because they dared to basically manipulate turn Macbeth into a little puppet without coming to her. She should be the one who gains all of the fame and glory for what these beldams did. And which is worse, all you have done hath been but for a wayward son, spiteful and wrathful, who, as others do, loves for his own ends, not for you. And the worst of it is that they've just done this out of spite. Now, this kind of, I don't like this monologue. I've never liked it, and I have a tendency not to teach it. And I always tell the kids there won't be a question on your test about it, and there never is, because some time ago, a long time ago, I read about this being having been written by an upstart actor who wanted more lines. And it seems to me, whether or not that's an accurate assessment of this or not, it just seems to me that this monologue where she's giving them crap for screwing around with Macbeth really is a little absurd. I mean, she is the goddess of witches. She is an agent of the devil, and they are doing the devil's work. And it is fate's intention, the fates of the darker arts. It's their intention to destroy this man. So why is she getting all huffy-puffy over this? It doesn't, in my mind, make a lot of sense. Now, somebody may in the comments be able to respond to that and illustrate why this is significant, that the witch gets all, I'm trying not to swear here, she gets all pissy. And the question is, why is she getting all pissy when they're doing what they should be doing as agents of evil? But make amends now. Get you gone, and at the pit of Acheron, meet me in the morning. Thither he will come to know his destiny. Okay, so this, I think I opened this by saying this is the scene where he meets with the witches, but it isn't. And that's because I never teach this scene, so I was immediately leaping forward into that. This is the Hecate setting up that they are to go to this place because they will meet him there. I don't think I've ever seen this scene in any production that I've watched, whether it be film or the on stage, because he's already said he's going to meet them. So the fact that he does indeed go there to meet them is more than enough for the audience to figure out. Your vessels and your spells provide, your charms and everything beside. I am for the air. This night I'll spend unto a dismal and fatal end. Great business must be wrought ere noon upon the corner of the moon. There hangs a vaporous drop profound. I'll catch it ere it come to ground. And that distilled by magic sleights shall raise such artificial sprites as by the strength of their illusion shall draw him on to his confusion. I'm actually curious as to what SparkNotes wrote here. Don't I have a reason to be angry, you disobedient hags? Does she? I don't know. How dare you give Macbeth riddles and prophecies about his future without telling me? I'm your boss in the source of your powers. I'm the one who secretly decides what evil things happen. So she's scolding them for doing things that without her approval. It's like a boss getting angry with an underling for moving ahead with a project without his first approving it. Even though the project is brilliant and purposefully designed for what the company wants, which is these witches. Their project is perfectly designed for what the devil has in mind, which is why I never did like this scene. And what's worse, you've done all this for a man who behaves like a spoiled brat, angry and hateful. Like all spoiled sons, he chases after what he wants and doesn't care about you. You know, I don't like her assessment of Macbeth, to be honest with you. He becomes this way because of the witches' prophecies. They tap into his ambition and they tweak him so that he does act in this manner, this more selfish manner. Okay, but you can make it up to me. Go away now, and in the morning meet me in the pit by the river in hell. Macbeth will go there to learn his destiny. So bring your cauldrons and your spells so you can make it up by screwing with him even more. So again, it doesn't make a lot of sense with me. And I will help you produce magical spirits that will trick his illusions. That will trick him with illusions. He shall spurn fate, scorn death, and bear his hopes above wisdom, grace, and fear. And you all know security is mortal's chiefest enemy. So basically setting up that when he does come to meet them, they're going to set him up in a sense of security to such a degree that he's actually going to destroy himself, which is what will happen in that next scene. And I still don't see the need for, whether it was Shakespeare or an upstart actor, for this actual scene in the play. And as a director, I would have no qualms cutting it. And there's music and a song within. Hark, I'm called, my little spirit sea sits in a foggy cloud and stays for me, so now I'm leaving you, goodbye. Come, let's make haste, she'll soon be back again, so let's get out of here before she returns. I've never liked this scene. I still don't like it, and I'm asking myself why I even bothered to read it out loud and talk about it, because all I can say are negative things about it. And not a single question on your quiz about this act is going to be based on this scene. Scene 6. This is a lovely scene. So the scene that I originally said that was, I'm going to jump back, actually, when I said that this was, let's see if I can go back. Yeah, I'm going to go back to scene 3. I originally thought that we were now entering into Macbeth's meeting with the witches in a cave. And that actually opens Act 4, which Act 3, your Shakespearean critical climax, and then Act 4, starting the showing his desperation and downfall. And going to the witches is his desperation and downfall, because they will set him up in hope, only to watch that hope ripped out from under him. Now, that things are not working in his favor is evidenced by the fact that the lords are now starting to abandon him. Lennox has been talking and spreading the word that we cannot trust this man. My former speeches. So this isn't the first time Lennox and the lords have gotten together to talk about Macbeth. And he believes that his former speeches have made an impact. My former speeches have but hit your thoughts. Okay, so, but we can interpret farther. This speech of Lennox is a lovely example of sarcasm. Very dark, black humor. Only I say, things have been strangely born. The gracious Duncan was pitied of Macbeth. Marry, he was dead. And the right valiant Banquo walked too late, whom you may say, if it please you, Fleance killed, for Fleance fled. Duncan loved Macbeth. He's dead. Banquo, he walked too late. Now he's dead. He didn't act soon enough on his suspicion, is my interpretation of that. And now with a sarcastic slap, he says, Banquo walked too late, whom you may say, if it please you, Fleance killed, because guess what? Malcolm and Donalbain fled, and the suspicion of Duncan's murder was placed on their heads. So, hey, let's blame Fleance for Banquo's death. Men must not walk too late. Banquo walked too late and died. We can't afford to walk too late. We know this man is a monster. We have to do something about it. Who cannot want but the thought how monstrous it was for Malcolm and Donalbain to kill their father? Again, this is sarcasm. He is really ripping apart what was said about Malcolm and Donalbain by talking about it in this sarcastic manner. Damned fact, how it did grieve Macbeth. Did he not straight in pious rage the two delinquents tear? That were the slaves of drink and thralls of sleep. Oh, Macbeth, and he was so grieved by Duncan's death that he just raced into the room and killed those two horrible men. And they were the slaves of drink. So he's now suspecting that the reason they were drunk and passed out was not by accident. Oh, was that not nobly done? I mean, you can just hear the sarcasm dripping. What a noble man, what a wise man, aye, and wisely too, for it would have angered any heart alive to hear the men deny it. We would have, Macbeth killed them so that they couldn't deny it. And acknowledging that these men deny it, if they had had the opportunity to deny it, then the suspicion of Macbeth would have been even greater. So that I say, he has borne all things well. He's done everything right to this point. And I do think that had he Duncan's sons under his key, and pleased heaven he should not, they should find what 'twere to kill a father. They too would be dead. And of course he throws in, and please heaven he shall not. So even though he's being very sarcastic, he's also being very straight up about who he supports. I pray to God Malcolm and Donalbain never end up under Macbeth's keys, because they would be put to death. But peace from broad words and cause he failed his presence at the tyrant's feast, I hear Macduff lives in disgrace. Okay, so because his words are broad enough to suggest that Macbeth may well have been the one who murdered Duncan and does not truly belong on the throne, because he failed his presence at the tyrant's feast. And this is where I get the idea that he refused to go to Macbeth's feast, but I think it's both, his crowning and the feast. He did not go to either. As a result, Macbeth lives in disgrace. So Macbeth is now the number one enemy against Macbeth. Malcolm is his enemy, but the man who is truly his nemesis, the man who fights for his rightful king and will destroy anyone who has committed an act of treason, that is Macduff. Sir, can you tell where he bestows himself? So because he lives in disgrace, he is now hidden. Where is he? And the Lord answers, the son of Duncan, from whom this tyrant holds the due of birth. So the Lord agrees. Now Macbeth, we go back to Act 1, Scene 2. Brave, noble, honorable, valiant, Bellona's bridegroom is a tyrant. The adjectives have changed. Lives in the English court. So Malcolm is the eldest. He is the Prince of Cumberland. He is next to the throne. He holds the due. Macbeth holds the due of his birth. Macbeth has stolen his crown and is received to the most pious Edward. So here we are learning about the English king who is set up as a foil to Macbeth, a pious king versus a king ruled by the devil. With such grace that the malevolence of fortune nothing takes from his higher respect. No malice. This is a king of God. God's anointed king, a true king. In fact, much like the way Macbeth described Duncan in his speech in Act 1, Scene 7, when he was going on, and the great, the cries of nature from the great damnation of his taking off, what would happen through his murder, because he was such a good and pious king, as is the English king, King Edward. So a good and pious king is going to support another good and pious king, or in this case, support those who fight the tyrant who killed a good and pious king. Thither Macduff is gone to pray the holy king upon his aid, to wake Northumberland and warlike Siward, that by the help of these, with him above, to ratify the work, we may again give to our tables meat, sleep to our nights, free from our feasts and banquets bloody knives. I gotta move this up because my head is going to be covering it. Do faithful homage and receive free honor. So he is going to England, and he's going to ask this pious Edward for his help and have him provide them with Northumberland and Siward, those armies, the armies of Northumberland and the armies of warlike Siward, and use them to come back to Scotland and rid them of the plague Macbeth. All of which we pine for now. He is going to do what we desire, what we need. And now The king has heard about this, and this report hath so exasperate the king that he prepares for some attempt of war. And so word has gone back to Macbeth that Macduff has fled to England, like Malcolm, with the intent of building up an army to overthrow him. Sent he to Macduff? So, did Macbeth send for Macduff? What does it say? Did he tell Macduff to return to Scotland? Yes, he did. And with an absolute "Sir, not I," the cloudy messenger turns me his back and hums, and who would say, "You'll rule the time that clogs me with this answer." So Macbeth is unhappy with the response that he gets. Macbeth says he sends word to England, "Come back to Scotland," and Macduff says, "Nope, not until I'm ready," basically, and Macbeth is angered by this. And that might advise him to a caution to hold what distance his wisdom can provide. So yeah, he'd be wise not to come back at this stage, not until he has an army behind him, that's for sure. Some holy angel fly to the court of England and unfold his message ere he come, that a swift blessing may soon return to this our suffering country under a hand accursed. So Macduff is the holy angel who is flown to England, who hopefully will bring an army to come back and save this suffering country under a hand accursed. So Macbeth is a tyrant, and he is an accursed hand. I'll send my prayers with them. So, this, I believe, ends our act, of course. The lords are now all committed to the belief that Macbeth murdered Duncan. Malcolm is their true king. He is the one whom they must give their allegiance to. They must abandon Macbeth. Macduff has fled to England for the very purpose of trying to get that pious king to help him build up an army through Northumberland and Siward. And we'll learn in Act 5 that Siward was in fact old Siward is Duncan's brother, so there's a filial obligation as well. And but what's critical, I think, with this scene is that in this scene, the way in which people now talk about Macbeth. Act 1, Scene 2, brave, loyal, worthy, valiant, honorable, Bellona's bridegroom, you name it. He was as thick as hail, post upon post came Macbeth's praises to the king, Duncan. And now these men are now referring to him as a tyrant and a hand accursed. It is not his favor anymore. Okay, so that ends Act 4. It's a shorter video, but sometimes these shorter videos are easier to get through. I will do, that didn't end Act 4, that ended Act 3. I will do Act 4 another day. So now you have all the video lectures for Acts 1, 2, and 3 at your disposal. You have an Act 2 quiz coming up and an Act 3 quiz coming up next week. So all of the information you need prior to those is here presented to you in these lectures. And more than that in your playbook, of course. I can't stress more how much the quiz I create, all the quizzes I've created, come from Shakespeare. Okay? They don't come from SparksNotes translation, although the SparksNotes translation serves you well in helping you understand Shakespeare. Those translations are not Shakespeare. They're designed to help you understand Shakespeare. Cole's Notes, designed to help you understand. Cliff's Notes, designed to help you understand, not designed to replace. Never, ever allow the resource designed to help you understand actually replace the literary text. Okay, that's my little lecture on using the real literature. But not denying the validity of resources available to you to help you understand the literary text. Okay, bye. Oops, I forgot to hit stop recording.